Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 3 live stream. This time, the Open Championship. Going to be breaking down PGA DFS and, of course, props for tomorrow and getting ready to go out there and just continue the print fest that has been the first 2 days. Though today, maybe not as much ROI, not as crazy as the first, but still grinded out a plus day on both sites. Also had our made cut parlay come through there from before the golf tournament. So a few things coming into line. In terms of main slate stuff, I don't want to say I'm dead at this point. I do have 6 of 6 lineups, but our ROI right now is like $400 back on our $750 in entry. So not looking like a smash week so far. So we'll have to see how that continues. Luckily, we've got props. We've got Saturday and Sunday Showdown to go after, and that's what we're here with the stream for. So first on, welcome on in. I can see a few of you down there in chat already. Say hi. Let us know down in chat that you're here, and what are you sipping on tonight? We got a little Crown and Coke this time. I told you guys we were holding off a little bit, but now it's officially the weekend. So cheers to you guys out there. What's going on, James? Says, thanks for your insight the last 2 days. Well, thank you for subscribing, James. Thank you for supporting the channel, right? Real busy week, Open Championship. Cheers to that, and let's continue that this weekend. Yeah, Paul. So pretty crazy pairings, right? You've got some unknowns towards the top of the board. You've got some legit, top 5, top 20 players there in the first hour or so of tee times. Going to be an interesting dynamic, right? If Brian Harman comes back to the field, I mean, this whole tournament's wide open, so it could be fun. What's going on, Mark? Hopefully you're having a solid start to your weekend here. So let's start this preview. Let's go through what we saw out there today. So first off, your winner for the community contest was Metro Con today. So went out there, had a pretty solid lineup, right? He had a few guys shooting over par today, but -6 for Brian Harman. I mean, that was the nuts, right? Nico Hogard had a pretty solid day. And even his players that shot over par, like a Terrell Hatton, for example, who had the 9 on hole number 18 out there. That screwed me for a few props, actually. He still made 4 birdies, right? He still went out there, put up birdie production. So this lineup wasn't that much better, right, than the rest of the pack, but outshined the rest, right? Probably a lot because of Brian Harman there. So if you're in the chat, Metro, if you're watching this on replay, good old tip of the cap to you. Again, if my hat was on the right way, I'd do that. But solid lineup, right? Yeah, bragging rights over the rest of the field. Yeah, Pepster there, Timothy. I know you're down in chat. You're over there in the Patreon. I see all the time, Timothy. Nice job on the 3rd place there. B's in 4th place. And then I think the last place for cashing was LSU Nick there with the $9 cash. So pretty sick lineup. You had Tom Kim there. He kind of carried you there. Thurston Lawrence too. Congratulations to all the winners out there. In terms of what we're looking at in round 2, it played pretty even across the board. I thought the afternoon would play a little bit harder than the morning, and we didn't really get that. So I don't know if it affected Showdown that much. A lot of the morning ceiling performances, right, were by guys going off early, right, like Brian Harman, for example. The guys like Minwoo Lee, right, went out there and shot 3 under par. You had guys like Sahith Theegala had a relatively good day. I mean, even like Justin Thomas had a respectable round. So the morning wave definitely had their share of performances, but a lot of PM guys in here too. So the wave, I would say, was kind of I don't know, it was a toss-up at best, right, when it came to the whole wave advantage yesterday. And for tomorrow, right, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but it's looking like it's going to be that same kind of thing, right, where maybe one wave gets a slight advantage over the other, but I don't know if we want to overreact to it, right? In our round 2 stream, right, I went through some of the stats from round 1, and I guess we can't sort it by the round 1 stats on here, but we did the exercise yesterday, right, where we went through the scores from round 1, and even in the quote-unquote worst wave, right, that was a shot harder, we had 5 or 6 of the top 15 performers. So if there's going to be an advantage, I don't know if I'd go too crazy on it. Maybe to go out there and do tiebreakers, that sort of thing, I'd use it, but I don't know if I'd go too bonkers on that. In terms of guys that missed the cut, that may have screwed people, right? This is always a fun segment. You had, Colin Morikawa missed on the cut. I didn't have exposure, but I'm sure people out there did. He was, I would say, a decent course fit. I could have easily seen myself getting there, but I didn't, luckily. Keegan Bradley, same thing. I did have some Sahith. That sucked. Joaquin Neiman, oh boy. So those two stung a little bit personally there. I had some Tom Hoagie, so RIP those lineups, but that was kind of expected. let's see, Justin Rose burned people. I didn't play him. Sam Burns burned people. Tony Finau, that one sucked. That one was a big boo-boo. That was that was honestly the one that stung the most of anyone that missed the cut out there this week. It would be Tony Finau for me. Not only because I had him at DFS, but also an outright bet, right? That always kind of stinks to not even have hope going into the weekend with him. But outside of that, I mean, Gooch missed the cut. I didn't see that coming. I thought he'd play a little bit better. Shane Lowry, +7. Oh boy, right? That was a stinker out there. Anyone else? JT expected. He sucks, right? +11. Honestly, if he's either shooting +11, he was missing the cut, or he was going to be in contention, right? There was no real in between there for Justin Thomas this week. So yeah, those were some of the stinkers. We still have a lot of the elite tier guys in the field, but a lot of them are in this +3, +2 range, right? I know somebody, I think it was Paul, alluded to it before. A lot of them just hardly got in by the skin of their teeth, right? You had like Adam Scott there, Fowler, Brooks Koepka, Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, right? Had to birdie the last hole to go out there and make the cut. I mean, that was a tough scene for him. I mean, even in +1, you've got a lot of studs, right? You got like Terrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick. You've got Cam Smith at +2, for example. Even par, you've got guys like I think Rahm's like +2. What is Rory? Like -1, right? Is where you're starting to get towards the top 10 at this point. Almost all of the studs are really far back. So when we look at the weather here, and this ECM model, right? This is the most reliable one out there, right? I want to preface it with this, right? It's saying that the PM wave is going to look a little bit easier than the morning, right? Right around like 3, 4 p.m., the wind gusts and the sustained winds drop down. I just don't know if I buy that personally, right? The reason why I wanted to go through, round one, right? A lot of the, people popping in the bad wave today, right? People were popping there in the bad wave is not to be like, oh, the late guys are going to have by far the best conditions, so we should just play all the chalk at the top of the board, right? There's a couple issues with that. First off, the morning is normally calmer than the afternoon. So if this is actually going to be the weather pattern, then that's atypical, right? Something that we wouldn't expect to see from this part of the country. And then furthermore, right, you have more receptive greens in the morning, and then those are where all your game theory pivots are, right? All your low-owned plays are in the morning, right? Because they're starting further back from the pack, right? They have more incentive to be aggressive because they're over par at this point. They have nothing to lose, right? The leader's -10. They've got to shoot something crazy low tomorrow to go out there and get into contention. I want those sort of players for 99.9% of showdown slates. And the only time I don't, and only time you really deviate from that, right, is for a few spots in your Sunday showdown lineup. Now, if this weather edge comes to fruition, it's something I'm going to be tracking tonight. So I've got a player pull out. As of right now, I'm playing it a little bit more flat across the board. Again, trying to take some of those game theory pivots. If, right before lock when I wake up, if we're looking at a huge edge between the two waves, which again, I don't foresee to be the case. I really don't think that's what we're going to see tomorrow. Then maybe I'll pivot to a little bit more chalk than you're going to see in my player pool here in a second. But I don't know. We've seen this story before. We've seen weather conditions where it calls for higher winds in the morning than the afternoon. And I don't want to say it happens every time, but a vast majority of the time that doesn't happen. That's just not really how the weather typically works, unless there's some crazy storm cell coming through, which again, morning storms are pretty rare. I mean, just think offhand, especially if you're from somewhere tropical. I know this obviously maybe doesn't fit that description, right? But you usually get those afternoon storms. It's just weird to get that kind of action in the morning. So I'm skeptical about it. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on these forecasts. If we take a look at some of the other models, you can see that they kind of agree, right? This GFS model, it does have it dropping off between like 4 to 5 p.m. This Meteo Blue model, actually not really, right? Maybe a little bit, right? Or close to like 3, 4 p.m., but not really dropping off as much as some of the other models. You look at this Icon model, which I guess takes a second to load here. Maybe it got a little update since the last time that we ran it. This one's calling for a drop off. This Arome model is not really calling for a drop off, right? If anything, it's kind of like peaking at the middle half of the day, low early and then low really late. So that one's a little bit different. And then this UKV model it kind of calls for that drop off, right? But the wind gusts, actually, yeah, I guess I'd say that drops off. So I don't know, it's kind of a toss up. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. Even if we're going to have an advantage for those PM wave guys, I just can't see myself going out there and being like, oh, let's play 4 or 5 guys that are like 20% out, that are like 15% out. Like, if that's going to be how we have to build lineups, like if I wake up at 1:30 and I have my $600 of exposure in, I'll still play Showdown tomorrow, guys, but I'm withdrawing a lot of my exposure. I mean, I'll probably take my 50 lineups and drop it down to 10 because if the edge is going to be to play all the chalk, all the guys at the top of the board, I mean, just like, no, thank you, right? That sounds like a god awful slate to me. It doesn't sound like a slate that I want that much exposure to, if that makes sense. So we'll leave it at that. Let's catch up on chat and then hop into some of this DFS stuff because, like I said, I'm playing it like I'm expecting the weather to be pretty neutral across the board. But if we have to react and change our lineups last second, it's probably not going to be for the better. Let's see. Hey, Luke, been a minute since you've joined a stream. Good to be back and more active. You've been killing props. Love to have you back here, GameCube. What's going on? You're an OG down here in the streams. You got 2 6 of 6 lineups that made it. That's actually pretty decent. I don't know how many lineups you entered, right? That's an important metric, right, with evaluating that. But hey, 2 6 of 6 sounds pretty good. Mark says, how about the way Cam Smith made the cut, right? Eagle on the last hole. I know he only needed a birdie, but that was a big time golf shot. And when I saw him do that, I literally thought to myself, it was a literal tangible thought that I wanted to really like just make sure that I like grasped. I was like, that's what makes him a great player, right? Is when these guys are backed into a corner, when he's at the road hole, right? And he has to putt it around a bunker, right? What happens? When he's at 17 at the Players' Championship, I'm standing right there in the tee box, first row, watch him hit that shot to like 3 feet to lock up that Players' Championship, right? Give him like a 3-shot lead. Like, he's one of the human beings on earth that like every time he's in that situation, he hits. He's like Steph Curry, right? With the 3-pointer to win the game, right? The guy does not miss. So, yeah, I don't know. I made note of that today and I was like, that's another Cam Smith moment, right? I've been privileged to see a few of them in person. Guy is an absolute stud. That's why I love the guy. So Jake says, hate the puss out and give in for players that decided to rake the bunkers. Oh, you're saying with the RNA? Yeah, I didn't like that decision either. I was against it too, right? Us golf purists, we want to see carnage, right? We don't want to see them getting pampered out there at a major championship. Cheers, Luke, and it's Friday. Cheers. I got to remind myself to sip on this as we're going through these. Shake that leaderboard up. Yeah, I think that's the theme, right? What I'm thinking for tomorrow in general, I guess we didn't even touch on the conditions, is I think it's going to play easier. They're getting rain as we speak over there in the area in rural England, if you want to look it up. And they're calling for rainstorms the entire day. In like, it's like 50 to 100% chance of rain for the next 18 hours in rural England. So it's going to be one of those slow slog fests tomorrow, right? Where they might even do ball in hand. I mean, even at a major championship, you might see that announcement before play starts. They're like, I don't remember. I think it's like 2 a.m. when they're locking for this golf tournament. So yeah, I think it's going to play easy. Like Travis is saying, I think you're going to see a lot of mixing up on the leaderboard, a lot of volatility with scoring because it's moving day, right? We know there's going to be volatile pins. It's going to be receptive with all the rain that they're getting. And frankly, they're all calling for it to be low winds in the afternoon. I think it's going to be low winds all day, right? If I think it's going to be neutral weather all day, right? And they're calling for low winds in the afternoon, that's essentially what I am implying, right? Now, don't call that as like Luke is saying for sure that it's going to be calm tomorrow morning. But if you wake up tomorrow morning and it's not super windy like they're calling for on the forecast, Luke told you so, okay? But hey, if it's windy, I didn't tell you so anything, okay? Just know that. That's how it works for us touts, right? We take those easy way outs, right? Mark says, very common in Scotland for the mornings to be windier and tougher. I don't know about that, Mark. Not from my experience. I've watched a lot of golf over here. I've been over there before, never played at a lot of these courses, but I don't know about that. Until I see otherwise from an expert, I'm gonna very much so question that, Mark. Cheers, Luke. Appreciate the tip of the hat and advice on DFS. There you are, Metro. Go down there, brag down in chat, talk your shit if you need to. Good shit there in the round 2 contest. Speaking of, so I don't forget about this, guys, we've got a round 3 contest, right? So I didn't throw the link down in chat before. I'm going to do it right now. This contest. Oh, did I unplug my mic? Are we still good on that? I got my mic. Okay, looks like we're good. Sweet. Yeah, get in that contest though. I threw it down in chat down there, guys. It's $5 entry, right? You're playing for bragging rights, you're playing for a little bit of money. And by the way, anyone that was in the round 2 contest, if you want your lineup reviewed, just like all the questions you can throw down in chat, right? Whether it's for players, conditions, you can also ask me to review your lineup, right? That is well within play for this live stream. Is it time to bet the house on Harmon to win? No. So Anthony, Data Golf has him at a 50-50 chance of winning the golf tournament. I think that's pretty fair. But realistically, if you're going to do anything action-wise, you should be betting guys that are like 7-8 shots off the lead. I mean, I don't have the odds board up in front of me right now. There's got to be some stupid odds out there, right? Some of the guys that are like +1, maybe even like the guys at +3, you might want to sprinkle for just like 0.1 unit at their astronomical odds. If Brian Harmon implodes, right, Anthony, and that's a caveat with this, right? If Brian Harmon implodes, the winning score right now is -5, right? And if someone, even if they're +3, right, they just hardly made the cut, right, and they're 8 shots back, you can make up 8 shots in 2 days. In fact, we've seen people make up 7-8 shot leads in 1 day, right? So all that has to happen for one of those long shot winners to hit for you, or at least to be live, right, to make it like a plus EV play, would be for Brian Harmon to implode. That's the side that I'm a lot more intrigued in, is potentially trying to just like scatter shot some of the studs, knowing that they're probably dead before they start. But if for some reason Brian Harmon on 17 hits it over the back of the green, it'd be a damn shame, right, for the golf tournament if that were to happen. Or he goes OB on one of like the 5-6 holes that can happen on. It'd be a damn shame right there for the golf tournament. Let's see. Is it time to bet the house? Oh, no eagle for Vic today. Yeah, it's a shame. I'm going to probably ride him tomorrow. I know I'm taking him in a bunch of my birdie or better props for prize picks and underdog. But yeah, unfortunate, right? Did he get an eagle yesterday? Did he use up his luck? Is that what I was overseeing there? Because that's always well within the possibility. If he did, I'm going to be pissed. No, he didn't. So he still hasn't gotten his eagle yet. If tradition tells me one thing, he's due that eagle. I'm telling you, maybe it'll be a hole in one. How far is 2 back to win? I don't think anyone's too far back, Jake. I just told you about the guys at +3, right? They would have to be the world's best players, right, to make up that much ground, to pass that many other players. But if Brian Harmon, and again, it's all dependent on him, right? If he comes back to the field, yes, anyone can get there. Boots on the ground next week for you. That's going to be sweet. That's right. 3M open, right? You got JT in the field. Cam Young, I believe, has committed to that field. Who else is a 3M guy, right? You've got a few guys that show up every year. Wolf used to be one. I know Morikawa used to be one, but I don't think he's playing this year. I'm sure it'll be decent enough. Hey, there's DFS contests and props to win, so we'll be watching. Do I get your picks from Prodigy Picks? Yeah, I copy all his picks. Yeah, I'm able to log in and change the times on all of my posts too, to say that they're coming out before him. So it looks like he's copying me. It's a really cool system that we've got going. Another great day, Luke. Thanks, brother. Yeah, I messaged you on Patreon. You should be able to send me a message on there, Bobby. I can send you one, so I'm assuming you should be able to send me a message, right? Harley says 3M open. Low-key has a better field this year. Finau's in the field too. So, and yeah, I know it's those 3, right? You got Tony Finau. He's the 3M open guy now. I don't know. We'll have to see. I hear on that. He just seems unstoppable at this point. The only thing that scares you is him getting caught up on a hole. No one's unstoppable, Anthony. People will fall apart all the time. You'll have even the world's best players like a Rory fall apart on a Sunday. It's Brian Harmon. Okay, let me remind you, right? You're talking about a 5'7" golfer that hits the ball like 280 yards through the air, right? The guy is not Jesus walking. The guy shoots 80 from time to time on the PGA Tour. He could do that tomorrow. He could shoot 82 tomorrow, like you saw from a Dustin Johnson. And it really would not mind blow me that much. It's a lot easier to shoot that kind of number at this golf course than you think. And if that happens, the golf course is wide open. Not the golf course, sorry. The golf tournament is just wide open. Anyone can win at that point. So in terms of our strategy, obviously over there on the Patreon is where my player pool is, projected points and whatnot that are all blacked out on here. But if you're on there, you have the sheet up and you're following along. My player pool is on a lot of the lower owned players, right? So I do have the projected ownership tab up here. So we'll be able to go through and you can get an idea for who I'm playing, right? So a Rory McIlroy, right? A Tommy Fleetwood are obviously locks for me in my player pool, right? No, obviously not dipshit, right? Obviously, those are the higher owned players that we're not taking, right? If we're trying to take the lower owned players. So pretty much outside of like Tommy Fleetwood, Rory, maybe like a Jordan Spieth, Cam Young, Max Homa, right, that are getting a bunch of ownership, I think everyone's fair game for tomorrow, right? These are studs. They're priced up for a reason. They had good outright odds coming into the week for a reason. And pretty much no matter what stats they're posting, no matter how they're hitting the ball to this point, I'm willing to play them. The only exception there would be Tom Kim. The reason I'm not playing Tom Kim is the guy is injured, right? They said that he had some sort of like a grade 2 ankle sprain, I believe is the word on the street with Tom Kim. But either way, right, I don't want to play an injured golfer. The rest of these guys that made the cut, like they're playing decent enough for me, right? So I don't have every single one of them in my player pool. That's not something that is sustainable. You can't play everyone, right? That's not how DFS works. But you can see on Patreon, right, I'm taking a few of my favorites. So if you had a lean out on a player after today, you saw them play today and you went, hey, I want to have exposure to them in Showdown tomorrow, and they're one of the players here that's not mega chalk, well, you would have no complaints from me, right? No sort of pushback in getting to those sort of players. So we'll leave that in the 10K range, right? Like I said, none of these guys, I mean, there's a few that are maybe a little overpriced, right? Like Matthew Jordan at $8,000. Like, come on, like what are we doing there? Like that's a crazy price. Like maybe don't play Matthew Jordan. Even like Bryson's like a little expensive. It's like, okay, 8,500 for Bryson. There's a few guys that maybe have ugly price tags, but like outside of that, you're not going to get that much pushback or argument on my end. Down here in this AK range, like you have some super chalky guys and like a Minwoo. I guess Tom Kim's even getting some ownership because he played well today, right? Even with that ankle injury. Brian Harman, of course, 34% owned. I mean, do not play him. That's the worst Showdown play you could possibly get to. By the way, it's not even just because he's 34% owned. It's because he has no incentive to be aggressive. He's up by 5 strokes. If he goes out there, he shoots 2 over par, he's probably still in the lead after the first 3 rounds. Right now, if that lead might only be like 1-2 strokes, right? If he goes out there and he does that, but still it holds, right? So Brian Harman, worst Showdown play you can get to, but like these other high-owned guys, especially down here in the value tier, are like egregious plays. Like even Agrio, right? Because he's 2 under par. Sepp Straka, 10.9% owned. Stenson getting some ownership. Sharma down here, my boy Shabonker, they're at $6,100, 5.8% owned. I mean, that's just no thank you, right? There are pivots all around them in terms of ownership you can take. It's a single round sample size. And if there's one thing you can rely on for Showdown to print money, it's volatility. There's only 18 holes to work with, only 18 holes to go out there and find success. And even some of the worst players on tour can find that success. So we'll leave it at that. Cam Champ for the win. Yeah, I'll bet him outright. I'll do that much. I'll probably play him at DFS too. Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Luke, for taking you down. I appreciate you. Of course, I got you. Yeah, and you're saying that about Brian Harman winning the thing. It's Brian Harman, right? Like, you got to remember who you're dealing with. If it was Scotty Scheffler, now it'd be a different conversation if it was Scotty, right? If it was Scotty there with a 5-shot lead, we might be booking the trip to Cabo, right? If we had the outright ticket on Scotty. So unfortunately, that's not the case there. Well, I should say fortunately. I want to see a good golf tournament, right? I hope it's not over after 36 holes. Would I still play the bumps on your plays? Probably not. They bumped on Prize Picks. That's interesting. They must have bumped over there in Underdog too, I'm guessing, right? Did they bump everything that I took? Yeah, pretty much everything, huh? Yeah, we're going to get to props here in a few minutes. We'll talk about what I'd still take. But there are definitely plays that I took on Underdog. By the way, Ben, because I know you're on the Patreon, right? Because you can see those. Anything that I took on Underdog that I didn't take on Patreon yet, sorry, Prize Picks yet, you can take, if that makes sense. And there's going to be guys up that you can do that with. Spieth comeback season. Oh, boy. I hope so. I'm playing his props tomorrow. He's going to be chalky. He's getting some ownership. What I got him like 17.3%. So, yeah, he's getting a little bit of attention. I don't love that. But, hey, for props, there's no such thing as ownership, right? Unless you're prodigies and you claim that you own all the picks, right? Harley says, never play bumps, never. Yeah, I wouldn't say to do it. Yeah, everything bumped. Yep. Somebody or better on Prize Picks not bumped. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Check out the ones that I took on Underdog that haven't been bumped on Prize Picks yet. Those would be the ones I would still take. Scotty would give that lead away at 4 missed putts. And you think that Brian Harman's going to hold a lead, man? Like, come on, right? Dude, Brian Harman, I mean, I know we can clown Scotty for the putting, right? But, like, it's Brian Harman, right? What are we doing here? So I guess a few specific players I want to touch on. So Cam Young, I don't think is unplayable, but he had a solid putting round today. He made a few putts that he typically doesn't make on the PGA Tour. That just doesn't feel that reproducible to me. I know he had a decent week last time out, right? Second place finish at the Rocket Mortgage, but it just feels like a tough scene when you look at the last 2 months of just dog shit form, right? For Cam Young. So I'm not sold there. The Max Homa train, I'm glad I have him in my 4-round stuff, but kind of like with Cam Young, like, I don't know if I want to tail them for 3 rounds in a row. Like, I took them the first 2 rounds. I took them for Showdown today. It's like, let's stop there, not let our luck run out too quickly. So I'm probably going to fade those guys at high ownership. Let's see, Minwoo Lee, right? Same thing. We played him today. We played him in our 4-round stuff, right? One of our core value plays this week. At 25% ownership and a higher price tag, like I don't see the utility. Getting to a 35% owned Brian Harman, right? I don't see the utility there. So those would be some of the talking points. In terms of low-owned pivots, let me give you one pivot to all of the chalky plays. So I've got Brian Harman there. If you're looking to pivot off of a Brian Harman, right, there are a lot of guys in this range that, like, ownership-wise, I would say are pivots, but like even Sungjae Im, right? I know Sungjae Im's getting some ownership. I've got him at 12.4%, but he's 3 times lower owned, right, than Brian Harman. If you're going to play a chalky guy in this like middle to top end of the 7K range, I'd rather it be Sungjae Im, who's like a legit superstar player, right? Finished in 3rd place for the Tour Championship this past year, and not even starting close to the top 5 in terms of your starting position. The guy's just a stud, goes out there and takes on an Eastlake, has wins, right? Just perennial top 30 guy in the FedEx Cup rankings. Like, I'd much rather take Sungjae Im at some ownership, right? Especially when he's still 3 times lower owned. So he's a good pivot there. For Minwoo, not a ton of guys here I love, but like an Adam Scott, I guess, the whole way up here. And I guess you could throw him in there for Max Homa as well. Matty Fitzpatrick, right? Instead of a Cam Young, I think that he makes quite a bit of sense. Let's see. Going to Cantlay instead of Jordan, right? Like, Cantlay is like cheap enough. He's low owned enough to get to. And then up top, right? Like a Rory instead of Rory McIlroy. Sorry, I just called him Rory. I said Rory instead of Rory McIlroy. Good stuff, Luke. Rahm, right? Instead of Rory McIlroy. So there are a lot of pivots to be taken. These guys, I'm sure, like Rory has won here before, right? He's playing better through the first 2 rounds. That doesn't make him 3 times more likely to succeed, right? To me, it's real black and white. I just look at the numbers. I play the value, especially in terms of the game theory side. And you can't tell me that a world-class player like Rahm doesn't have it in him to go out there and outperform Rory. Like he could easily go out there and beat him by 4 or 5 strokes. It's just how they're feeling tomorrow, right? That's why we play Showdown. That's why game theory is a huge aspect of our Showdown process, because any given thing can happen, right? Rahm could go out there and smoke him there tomorrow, right? Or he could get absolutely smoked by Rory, right? Both of those are, let's see, equally likely outcomes. So if they're equally likely outcomes, why are we taking the guy that's 3 times higher owned, right? Why not just take the shot on the lower owned player, knowing that he's probably got pretty much the same chance, maybe just marginally lower chance of succeeding? That's the way that I look at that one. This middle tier range, like guys like a Ricky Fowler, Han, like they're all good pivot plays. Down here in this 8K range, a lot of guys missed the cut, so maybe not as much depth here in this 8K range. So that's why guys like Cam Young, Max Homa, Minwoo down here are as chalky as they are, right? Normally there's like 20 guys in this range, right, in terms of your pricing, but there's only like 10 to 12 that actually survived. So there's just a little bit less depth. And when that happens, the ownership in that range tends to get a little bit more condensed than you might have for most slates. So just a few things that I noticed there. Let's see. Tommy Fleetwood. So he's like 30% owned. So if you're playing in a big GPP, like it's just not my favorite play, right? Taking somebody that you'd have to use in half or all your lineups to get leverage to. But if you're in a single entry, if you are willing to lock Tommy Fleetwood, I suppose you could go that direction. But it's just, yeah, the ownership's crazy, right? Because he's up there at the top of the board. And in terms of guys that could track down Brian Harman, he's definitely capable. Let's see. Who are some of the best rain players, or where did you go to get that? I think Fantasy National has it. I believe they have some sort of data on that, but I'm not certain. I haven't checked that data on there. It's not something that I track personally that I have in my models. Like there's no shots gained rain that I can bring up or that sort of thing, or else I would do it for you guys here on stream, right? It'd make our lives a lot easier. But just out of like memory, right? Trying to figure out what's going on. Jason Day has played well in the rain. Wells Fargo Championship. They had a few really rainy days for that golf tournament. He played well like all 3 days. It was rainy. This is just me trying to remember little instances. Max Homa plays well in the rain. I know that. So I guess if there's a chalky guy you want to play, right, he probably makes a lot of sense for that. Other than that, I can't remember anything. Let me see. Maybe the Crown and Coke will help me remember. I guess some European tour guys, right? They play in the rain quite often. Usually it's not a huge downpour. It's the kind of rain they're going to get tomorrow too. So I think that experience might be pretty valuable right here for moving day. But outside of that, yeah, no data. What a day. Was so nervous with Scotty. He was your last one for the make the cut parlay. Carnage week. Yeah, crazy. And it was crazy that he took a birdie on the last hole to do it. Definitely didn't deserve to make the cut, but good for him for sure. Tita Green, Cam is hitting it the best over the first 2 days. Soft course and his length could be money. Is he actually? I didn't know he was doing all that with the ball striking. Let's bring it up. It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that that's jarring. You really wouldn't think that, right? You think it's the putter that's really holding him up and whatnot. Are you talking about Cam Young? Let's see. Is it Cam Young that you're talking about? Or I was saying, if you're talking about Cam Smith, that's crazy. Let's see. Shots gained, Tita Green. Yeah, you're talking Cam Young, right? Getting the 5.8 shots gained per round. The issue with him is the putter is normally the issue to begin with, right? It's not like, oh, Cam Young's a really good putter and he's not putting, so let's hope that he regresses to his mean. This is kind of what he does. So great to see and whatnot, but I kind of feel like he's going to come back. It'll play shorter if there's rain. Yeah, it will. It won't play shorter if there's rain, Harley. It'll play longer, but they'll shorten up the course, right? They'll probably use some up tee boxes, that sort of thing. All right, let's take a look at some lineup construction stuff. Get in your questions for DFS right now before we move on to props. And then afterwards, we're going to go through this prize picks and underdog board, which should be a relatively profitable one. I think we got a good spot for tomorrow, especially some of the early value we got in there. So if you're looking at round 3 showdown stuff, right, there's no real wave advantage. So I don't think you have to go out there and only stack AM or PM guys. If you were going to do anything, I guess you could stack the PM wave. I don't think it's necessary. So for my lineups, right, because I'm taking a lot of ownership pivots, I don't have to think very much when I'm putting together my lineups. I can just like almost blindly click together players because all my guys are low owned. Like there's no mega chalk in my player pool, right? So it's not like I'm worried about taking 2 pieces of mega chalk together. Makes my lineup making process a little bit easier, which I don't know. It's just, I guess, a nice novelty, right? It's not really all that important, but if you throw in a few pivots in here, you'll see the kind of lineups I see myself building, right? It's just a lot of high upside, talented players that, like I said, aren't mega chalk, right? Some of them are chalky, right? Don't get me wrong. Sanjay still getting ownership. Cam Smith, Fowler. It's not like they're completely unowned, but compared to their peers, it's either respectable, moderate, or even low ownership, right? So let's throw Answer in there, and then you can throw in your favorite $7,100 guy, right? My lineup making process, I'll have lineups where I'm taking a few 6K guys. There's a few 6K guys in my player pool. I'll have lineups where I'm a little bit more balanced, where I'm not even taking guys in the bottom end of the 7K range. There's going to be pretty much everything and anything in between. So as of right now, I've got 50 lineups reserved, thinking that's probably going to be my exposure. The only thing that could change that, right, would be the weather. If we end up getting more and more data that's telling us that the PM is going to be a lot easier than the morning, then I'll probably take those 50 lineups, move them down to 10 lineups, and find a way to play some chalk. If I'm playing chalk, I just want to throw the idea out here because this might be the case before lock, right? Like if you're going to be up before lock or up like 10, 15 minutes before lock, wake up and check this and have a backup plan, okay? My backup plan for this slate And I might not even be able to take my lineups out, right? I might be stuck with my 50 if the lineups I'm in, or say the contest I'm in fill, right? Which is very possible. If that's going to be the case, right, I'm just going to have to figure out who the hell to take at the top of the board. And Brian Harmon, for me, I would just cross him off. I would not play him even in the nuts conditions. Like I said, he's going to be real conservative with the 5-shot lead, but like a Fleetwood comes into play. Guys like a Minwoo, maybe I go right back to, right? A Jordan Spieth for sure, like a Cam Young. Like I could see myself playing him tomorrow if that wave really does have that advantage, right? So like there are guys up here that I'm not playing. I mean, even like Rory, you could throw in Max Homa, right? At his -1 score, you could throw into your lineups. A lot of these guys I'm just fading because of ownership concerns right now. But if we do get that wave edge, maybe I end up playing them, right? And the guys that come out of my player pool might be some of the studs at the bottom of the board. So I would see myself taking a lot of these guys and yanking them from the pool. I'd see guys at the top of the leaderboard and adding them to the pool. And where I'd find my leverage, right? This is where I would keep a lot of my player pool the same, right? There'd be a lot of these guys I'm taking towards the middle of the leaderboard right now that I'm still keeping in my pool, right? And this is where my low-owned leverage plays, a lot of my value is going to come from. So I just wanted to throw that out there. As of right now, right, I'm not expecting to make that change. But I don't know. If we get some sort of weather report that completely throws me off, that like, I don't know, maybe this changes to like 25-mile-an-hour winds in the morning and literally like 0 wind across the board for all these different models, then maybe we start to change things. But until we see that, I'm going to go with what we've got right now. In terms of cash, right, I don't think there's any huge edge for cash, right? There's no real wave edge as of right now. So I would probably skip out on cash. I just wouldn't play it. If you're going to go out there and play cash, I suppose you can take a little bit of chalk. Once again, I still wouldn't play Brian Harmon, but I couldn't blame you for trying to take a Fleetwood, right? He's been a stud. Spieth looks really good right now. Obviously, the ball striking, the tee to green play for Cam Young has been outstanding. These sort of guys in cash are who I would build behind, right? Guys that have looked good from the eye test and the stat test through the first 3 rounds. And in cash, right, we're not worrying about ownership. But I mean, other than just trying to take the guys that have looked good right through the first 2 rounds, I don't see an edge for cash, right? So that's why I would avoid it tomorrow, right? Normally, I play cash when there's going to be a tangible edge to be had. Usually, that is weather-wise, and then I go out there and try to exploit that. And unfortunately for us, I'm not sure if we're going to see that there. Outside of that, not sure if we have any lineup construction stuff to do. So we'll go through questions and then hop into some props. Let's see what we've got. All right. Sounds good. We locked in some value then, Ben. Sweet. All my spreadsheets for GPPs, do I get more chalky for single entry tournaments? Yeah, they are. All the spreadsheets, they're for GPPs. So especially like ownership, my player pool and whatnot, that would be my GPP pool. I used to do a little like single entry tab where I would go down there and throw guys I'd consider for single entry. But the issue with that, right, is I usually only enter like 1 or 2 single entries. So if I tell everyone who I'm playing in my 2 single entry lineups, like you can literally guess who I'm using, right? And like people will play me in some of my smaller field single entry stuff, knowing who I'm using, right? Like, so that feels a little bit unfair to me. So I stopped doing that, right? I stopped putting out my single entry pool. But yeah, I'm a little bit more chalky in single entries, right? In terms of my strategy, if there is some mega chalk that like maybe I was on Monday, that ends up being like 30% owned and I have to fade them on a Wednesday, most of the time I throw them in my single entry lineup, right? Because I like them in those sort of contests. You can kind of manage a 35% owned guy a lot better than you could in like 100,000 entry contest. So yeah, for sure. So all my spreadsheets definitely reflect the GPP contest, but my strategy for single entry, the pool doesn't typically change all that much. Me actually adding someone to lineups that I didn't take before is very rare in a single entry contest, but it can happen, right? Based on ownership. You saw a stat on Twitter, people going into the weekend with a 5-stroke lead continue to win. It is true, by the way. Do I think that has been the case? It has been. It's been the last 9 cases, I believe. They've gone out there and won the golf tournament. It's usually like Rory McIlroy or it's like Tiger Woods that did it with players of that kind of caliber, not Brian Harmon, though. So we'll have to see. Stenson is the best mutter left in the tournament. Yeah, I like his chances, man. I took him as a low-owned value this week, took him for some props, and the guy may be proud out there. So definitely agree with you. He's got the experience. He's done it before in this kind of golf tournament. And the play looks good. I mean, today, right, he was outstanding, right? Bogey-free rounds, went out there, made 3 birdies. It's going to be tough to go out there and replicate that, right? Go out there and have 2, flawless rounds in a row, but he's definitely capable. He's got the experience. So in terms of props, guys, I guess we got quite a few bumps. So let me take that in as we take a sip of our Crown and Coke here. I mean, look at that. Look at all those bumps we've got going. Let's see what we're working with, because it looks like a lot. Maybe fortunately, maybe unfortunately. We'll have to see, right? Things can always move in our favor. That's a thing when it comes to props. 3.5 birdies. So they moved a lot of these birdies up 0.5. Okay. They still got Cam Young at 3. That's interesting. So let's throw that one in our shopping cart. Let's see what else they got. Brian Harman's at 3. Yeah, I'm not touching that. Good old Brian Harman is not going to try and make birdies tomorrow. He's going to be hitting to the center of every single green. Let's throw Cam Young in the shopping cart, and let's throw... I wish they had Brooks up at 3. That would be great. Yeah, they bumped a lot of the good ones on here to 3.5, huh? I'm trying to think of somebody that's also at 3 on Prize Picks, but it looks like all those guys got bumped, huh? Didn't they? Or at least most of them. All the guys that I would consider taking. So yeah, Cam Young, Adam Scott, probably 2 of the better options that are left on the board. But that early stuff we got was absolute fire. The guys that we got at 3, we got like Ricky, Cam Smith. We got all the elite tier guys like Victor Hovland, Max Homa, Terrell Hatton. Like, I guess, yeah, we took Fitzpatrick too. So I guess you could throw him in there. You could throw him into there. I also took Hideki at 3. You can throw into that kind of bucket too. A lot of the others got bumped, but there's still a few stragglers left over. So I know we had that comment before that all the underdog stuff got bumped. There's still stuff out here I'd take. And I don't even know if I took these guys officially at this point. I might not even have them entered yet. I'm probably going to enter them off stream if that's not the case. But yeah, if anyone's watching right now, still some guys on Underdog you can definitely take over there. Let's look at Prize Picks now. Let's see what values left over there. There was still quite a bit. They had guys at 2.5 to open. So like Hideki was 2.5 birdies. I took his over there. They had Matt Fitzpatrick, 2.5 birdies. I took his over at that number. And who else did we have at 2.5? There's one more, I believe. So yeah. Who was it? Terrell Hatton, no. Patrick Reed, right, was another one at 2.5 that we took. So they have a few that haven't bumped on here, right? They still have a bunch of guys at 3, like a Ricky, right? He's 3.5 on Underdog. So maybe you want to go that direction. Let's see. Anyone else that's been bumped on Underdog that's not bumped on Prize Picks? Let's throw Ricky on there just so that we can point it out, right? So Ricky's one of those players. Who else would be at 3.5 over there? I guess no one else. Look at this. Cam Young's at 3.5 on Prize Picks, but 3 on Underdog, right? Like that feels like a pretty decent discrepancy to take advantage of. Let's see. They have Xander 3.5, Cam Young 3.5. So yeah, they've bumped a decent amount of them. Terrell Hatton, right? He's at 3.5 on Underdog. Like honestly, guys, the guys that are getting bumped on these sites are probably the ones that you want to be taking before they bump on the other site. The action isn't always smart action, but the guys that are getting bumped here are the elite tier birdie makers, right? It's like Terrell Hatton kills link style golf courses. Ricky Fowler, right, has been the hottest player in the world for the last month or so. Like these guys, they shouldn't be at 3 birdies. And the reason why I said they shouldn't be at 3 birdies is I guess a few stat things. Birdie average today was 2 points. Let me find the exact average. My boy, I think T20, threw it down in a chat. Let's see it. At least I believe. Hopefully it's there. If not, we can calculate it. There we go. It's 14.03%. The birdie or better average today. So times 18 times 14.03 was 2.525 birdies per round, right? So like 2.53, we'll say, for the field. That's for all the scrubs included, for all the guys like John Daly that were in the field, right, who were out there slapdicking it around the first 2 days. Guys that missed the cut that were amateurs and whatnot, but were bogging down that average. Tomorrow we have moving day pins. We have soft greens because of all the rain that they're getting, even rain during the day, lower winds, and better players left, right? That birdie or better average is going to go way up. It's going to be at least 2.8, 2.9, if not 3 birdies plus, which means if the field average is at 3 birdies, all of these guys should be projected at least 3.5, right? Like, I know I'm making a little bit of an assumption with the conditions, but it's raining all day. That should make things a little bit easier. And I know playing in a little bit of a downpour can be annoying, right? But you can throw darts. Like, maybe you have a bad shot or two, right? But that's why we're not taking strokes. That's why we're not going out there and chancing it that somebody, has a bad tee shot because his club, maybe his grips are a little bit wet and it slips in his hand, right? That can happen, right? That's why strokes lines are probably a little bit scary for tomorrow. But birdie or better stuff, right? That's irrelevant, right? Guys can go out there and suck all they want, right? You can go out there and make a quad bogey on 18 if they want to absolutely screw you. If they go out there, they make the 3 birdies to push. I'm going to at the very least be satisfied, right? And if they go out there and make 4+, like I think a lot of the field is going to tomorrow, then we're going to feel pretty good about it. So it looks like they bumped. Who did they bump out here? They're wilding out here on the prize pick streets, apparently. They just took Haddon off. They didn't even bump him. Good old angry gnome Haddon just got taken off the board completely. Interesting. Okay, so they still have Ricky Fowler up at 3 birdies. I don't hate that one whatsoever. Let's find a pair here for the stream. So you could take Hideki. What, did they just take Hideki off? No. Or did they add Haddon back and now that he's bumped? That's probably what they did, right? They added our boy back. Or no, they're taking more props off. So my guess is that they're trying to adjust the board and bump up a lot of these guys. So Sanjay M, you could toss in. Matt Fitzpatrick, right? I pointed him out over there in Underdog. A lot of these just elite tier birdie makers at 3 birdies. I think pretty much no matter when they're teeing off, you can feel pretty solid about those. Let's see. Do I play Rainmakers? Not yet, Mel. Something that I might look into for next season. It's not something that I'm looking to actively do right now because it's towards the end of the first season, and all your cards at the end of the first season, I believe, get like trashed, right, or useless at the end of the year. So maybe for next year. Haddon has disappeared on prize picks. Yeah, a few other guys are too. So it looks like they're trying to adjust for some of these conditions, which, like I said, today, right, hard conditions, I think probably as difficult as they're going to get all week. 2.52 average, including all the shitty players, and also considering, right, that tomorrow should probably be a little bit easier, right? Like these guys shouldn't be at 3 birdies. I mean, like these guys at 2.5 even, like these like just field average players like a Nikolai Hogard and Alex Norn, for example, like I don't even think they should be at 2.5 birdies. Like the average for the field tomorrow, I think is going to get significantly better. A lot of it will be talent level wise. A lot of it will be conditions wise too. So, yeah, other than that, guys, we're 49 minutes in. Then we'll go ahead and leave it at that. So if you haven't gotten in the community contest yet, make sure to go ahead and join that. Don't miss out on the fun. Play for a little bit of bragging rights. Go out there, try and make a little bit of cash as well, and go out there. Let's get it on the backup mic. Okay. Our mic went out at the end of the stream. It's good timing at the very least. Appreciate all you guys here for the support as per usual. Hit that like button on the way out of here. We'll be doing the same thing for the last round of action. So keep an eye out for my Twitter for when we'll be going live. I appreciate all the support. Best of luck with those props, any outrights that you're going with. And let's go out there, take home a GPP, and cash out on some props. Until then, like I said, I appreciate you guys, and catch you tomorrow.